It's just bliss when it happens. Well, you've rather beaten mine. My rather sorry lot left. I mean, Danone UK, the managing director, is called Bruno Fromage. You probably remember the former Lord Chief Justice was called Lord
Judge.
Lord Judge. I mean, that really is pretty straightforward, isn't it?
What is Fry, darling? What is it? Is it
the Fries? Yeah, well, it was a Bristol chap, and chapess is a very famous chapess. She was on our £5 note until very recently.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Fry, and she was a Gurney, and the Fries were Fries, and they were both Quaker families, as many of the chocolatiers were.
Were you plagued at school by people saying Turkish
Of course,
delight?
Fries, Turkish delight, keeps you up at the night. It doesn't.
Happy days.
Pleasant, comestible.
You tried Dan, the laboratory man, washed his hair with a frying pan, combed his hair with a leg of a chair, Dan, an old Danny boy. There's certain songs that do curse you through your life if you have a certain name.
I just got, what sort of a fucking name is Jeremy?
Just a couple of nominative determinism facts. One is this fellow called Robert Lane, who was a New Yorker who, for various reasons, decided to give his sixth child the name Winner, and his seventh and last child, rather unkindly, Loser. Some kind of extraordinary experiment, but it at least reversed the effect you might expect. And Loser Lane, known as Lou, went on to become a pillar of the NYPD and probably arresting his older brother, Winner, who was arrested for burglary more than 30 times. So it didn't work at all. Now, if I told you that two of our biggest fans are called Joyce Baker and Amanda Pastry, what do you think you might have handed out to you?
Is it cake?
Well, it's not cake, actually. It's biscuits, so you can help yourself. You have to eat them all.
Well, it's nice, but mildly disappointing.
Yeah. You've got to eat them. This is all part of the experiment that you eat me up. Did you eat yours?
Okay.
The third one has to go, and Alan's taken the third one. And that's the important thing.
What?
Because he's got the word leader on it,
Yeah.
this happens in experiment after experiment with human beings. If you tell someone they're the leader, and you give them three or something, an odd number, with an even number of people, the leader is basically always takes.
Well, it's a bit like my father once went out for tea with somebody, and two cakes were delivered. One was very small, one was very large. And the chap just leant over and took the large one, and my dad said, if that had been me and I went first, I would have taken the small one. He said, well, you've got it anyway, so what are you complaining about?
That's so logical, it is. It's brilliant.
I think boys and girls have a very different way of doing this. I was once at a party, and they were handing out things on the slate they seem to do nowadays with canapés.
Yes.
And there were
Slate or
two
planks.
small canapés on this piece of slate, and there were three of us, and all three of us went, no, that's very kind. Thank you, like that. And as we were saying it, a man walked past, picked up one canapé, put it on top of the other, and ate them both.
Excellent.
So he ate the other one, not just because he's Alan Davis.
But because he's got leader, and he felt like somehow it was just put into his brain that he was the leader, and he would have that. It's not behavioural sciences.
I was looking forward to that bit.
Hand in your plates.
It doesn't help that I forgot I'd got leader on my hat.
Yeah. Oh, well, you forgot you were the leader. That really
yes.
doesn't help.
No.
No.
I'll eat those as well, if you like.
What? Right, so, skimming on. What did lucky old Edward VII use this for?
Oh, I say.
I say lucky, I mean, it's an extraordinary...
Oh, God.
What do we know about it? No, quite wrong. He didn't poo on yellow silk.
No.
You thought it lifted up into
a
commode. Yes, I did.
Is it sexual of some kind of
It was sexual, yeah.
It's sexual, and I'm not going to say on television, frankly. I'll just be in trouble.
Well, no, you won't. I mean, it's not... I mean, it's...
Well, I will a bit.
Yeah.
For what I've got in mind, if I say... I guess a young lady sits on the top bit, and he's not on the... He's there elsewhere.
Well, this is what we find hard to work out. The Chabanais was a maison de passe in Paris, a brothel, as we would say, and he had this constructed for him. It was called the siège d'amour, the seat of love. And the idea was that he could service, pleasure, have his way with two prostitutes at the same time.
Oh.
How this worked, I'm not quite sure. I say at the same time, I mean that...
With his extra penis.
It does make me worry.
It's a king's penis.
Oh, just two penises.
It's got stirrups at the top, so there's
It
clearly
has
somebody...
got stirrups. Her legs could go. What is?
Is this why Queen Victoria didn't talk to him? What have you got there now, dear? Your Your Majesty.
Dirty Bertie, as he was known, quite right. His name was Bertie.
Do you know that wonderful story about he had a long-standing affair with Lily Langtry? Probably it's not true at all, but it is said that he was very cross with her one day, and he said, "I've spent enough on you to build a battleship," and she said, "You spent enough in me to float one."
So, what did the ancient Greeks use this for?
Yes, go on.
Quick, get your penny out.
Is it this?
No, it isn't. You're not seeing all of it, which is rather unfair of us. You're just seeing the head. It then goes on quite a long way down.
Is it sexual
Then
as well?
something protrudes.
Is it sexual? It
Yes.
is, isn't
Is
it?
it?
Yeah, there you are.
There you go.
Well, you can't.
Well, it doesn't look like much fun.
It doesn't.
He get his bollocks shut in the lift.
They're very few left in good condition, I have to say.
Well, somebody's pulled that one's arms off.
It's the only way he'll learn. The only way he'll learn not to play with himself. See, these were called Hermes, as in Hermes, the god. And these were little pillars, or large pillars in some cases, with a phallus on them, and they were rubbed in oil. And then, as you passed one, you'd give it a good fondle. There you are, another one there.
Oh.
To give you good luck.
And where's it from, darling? Where's it?
It's Greece, in the great period of Greece, if you like. In fact, during the Peloponnesian War in about 415 BC, there was a terrible incident known as the mutilation of the Hermes, when they were at war with Sparta, the Athenians, and every single penis had been hacked off.
Yeah.
And they blamed this on their disastrous expedition to Sicily a little later. It's very, very
Well, it
sad.
changes. I mean, that period of history, the discovery that the penis has anything to do with reproduction, changes everything.
There's no
It is the
natural
most-
reason to suppose that the predisposition to pop it in a snug hole somewhere, which is what all humans and animals, we can observe animals doing, and humans have the same predisposition. The idea that 9 months later the thing that
Yeah.
pops out
It's
of you is
connected anyway.
connected to it is
You're
not
saying
a
until the
rational one
Greeks,
at all.
nobody had worked that out.
Oh, there are plenty of cultures that hadn't worked it out at
Many
all until
cultures,
they
in
were
fact, you get mostly
told.
goddess cultures prior to that, where the woman is revered because she's the one who's producing
Yeah.
the new child, and,
No one knew
the men suddenly go, "Whoa, it's something to do with me," and that ruined the world, actually.
Very good. Now, what's the worst thing you can do with a gimpy gimpy?
Gimpy.
Remove her leaf?
Well, that would... she would be upset. It's wipe your bottom. You've missed your spend a penny chance.
Does it do something? Does it make it poisonous or something? Does it do something dreadful to you?
I think poison is... It's kind of poison, but it's sort of worse than that.
Is it full of bugs that crawl up your
It's
bum?
like, imagine a stinging nettle turned up to the absolutely unbearable max.
Why would you wipe your bottom with it? Just
Well, because it looks a bit like a leaf that
Oh, a
would be
dock
safe
leaf
to.
type thing, I see.
Yeah, dock leafy sort of thing. It's from Queensland, and it has one of the most vicious stings in nature. A brush against it feels apparently like being burnt with hot acid and electrocuted at the same time. According to one account, a soldier in the bush in the Second World War was caught short and picked the wrong leaf and found himself in so much pain that he shot himself.
No.
That is a serious... I mean, just the agony of it. One of the first mentions is from 1866. A surveyor reported that his pack horse was stung, got mad and died within 2 hours. Les Moore, a scientific officer with the Queensland government, was stung across the face, ended up looking like Mr. Potato Head, apparently.
I still think it can't be as bad as the toilet paper we had at boarding school.
Izal and Bronco.
I used to write home to my mother on it, airmail letters. That's how bad
Yes,
it was.
it was crispy tissue.
Is that,
nothing-
that shiny stuff?
Nothing
Izal,
would stick
yeah.
to it. It was like grease paper. You just
extraordinary.
think, well,
Why
I
did they ever
definitely
think-
had a poo, but there's no ever... come off on it. It seemed to serve no purpose.
Shall we move along?
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. So, you've got to spend a penny round, after all. And if you're caught short in the bush, don't use a gimpy gimpy. You might end up shooting yourself. Now, which football team is the worst in the world at losing major trophies?
Just losing the worst in the world. So it's a team that presumably has never won a game. Should be any team
They've
that
won
never
quite a lot of games. They've even won trophies.
Have they had the trophy?
But then they've lost them.
They've lost.
They've
so
lost them.
But that,
Yeah.
Aston Villa?
Very good.
Well, there you go. That's
Back in Birmingham
brilliant.
again now, and you're being rude, aren't you?
By knowing so much.
How do you know that?
He does a sports programme. He's a
Yeah, I do. I know, yeah.
I must listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the 1964 FA Cup final, which was won by...
West Ham.
you can see Bobby Moore there. Who was their manager?
At that point, 1964, would have been not Ron.
It was Ron.
It
Ron
was, yeah.
Greenwood, yeah.
Ron Greenwood.
He took it home by tube, discreetly covering it. That lady, she's got her eye on it.
I talked to Jackie Charlton once. Was the centre-half for England when they won the World Cup in 1966. His brother Bobby, of course. And Jack Charlton said that after the World Cup final, he said, myself and Alan Bourne, a few of the lads, we headed to the talk of the town. And he said, I woke up in a couple's house in Dagenham, who I've never seen before or since. And the first thing I did was get my jacket and go, because I still had the World Cup winners' medal in my pocket. We made a few excuses on winners. So it's not unusual in that period.
I love the fact that Bobby Charlton used to have a cigarette at half-time in every match.
There's a wonderful ladies' football team called the Dick Kerr Ladies, and the Dick Kerr Ladies existed for years and years. In fact, during the Second World War, they were the most popular football team, and there was a woman who used to play for them who smoked Woodbines while playing.
Well, Ron Greenwood had good reason to be worried, and that's the point. Football trophies do have a history of going missing. And Aston Villa seem to have been more to blame than anyone else. In 1895, their FA Cup was stolen from the window of a sports shop in Birmingham. And 63 years later, a man called Harry Burge confessed that he had been the man who'd stolen it, and he'd melted it down and made counterfeit half-crown coins.
Wow.
The second major trophy to have been mislaid by Aston Villa was the European Cup in... What year did
1981.
Yes, they mislaid it in 82. Two members of the... In fact, 82 would have been, yes. Two members of the team decided to take the cup to a darts match where it disappeared. And many years later, a man called Adrian Reed was identified as the culprit. He took it to a local police station, but it didn't end there because the police decided to have a football match for it. So they kept it, so they could brag about being the European Cup winners. And the FA Cup gets damaged so much every year that it has to get repaired every single year because it gets bashed about in the bath.
I love they've got a pot of tea by the bar.
Yes. My father-in-law, brew up.
Is very nice.
You always used to see them quite often. You'd see them drinking milk. I mean, that's been an early sponsorship thing. But always after the FA Cup
of milk.
Just remember this now. In the post-match interviews, they'd be standing holding a pint of milk. The last thing you want, actually.
Well, it's probably sponsored by the milk board.
Yeah, it would have been the milk marketing board.
Aston Villa may not have a great record of winning trophies, but they have a rather impressive record of losing them. Speaking of losers, it's time for the lucky dip that is general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. And don't forget that tonight the lowest scorer will be the winner. Which day is added to a leap year? Yay.
February the 29th.
Yeah, well done, absolutely. No, it isn't.
Right, well, it is. Standing my ground on this one.
Well, what is... They squeeze into the middle of February and add an extra 24th, so then the 24th becomes 25th, 25th becomes 26th, 26th becomes 27th, 27th becomes 28th, 28th becomes 29th. The reason for that is that the Roman calendar was divided into three. The calends, the nones and the ides, and when it came to discovering, which they did, that a year was actually not 365 days, but 365 days and a quarter, they added it into one of those calendar series. Now, you may say this is just ridiculous. They added 29, but they didn't. And in fact, the proof of this is that in Denmark, the day on which a woman is allowed to propose to a man is the 24th of February, not the 29th.
So there's an extra day...
That's the reason.
There's an extra day in the middle of February that, apart from Denmark, nobody else has noticed.
Well, the Catholic Church did until the 70s, so it was St. Matthias's Day.
So vicars would go, no, it's the secret day today.
Yeah. St. Matthias's Day was the 24th of February, but on leap years it was the 25th.
I was with you.
Yeah, I know, quite. But it's good, because he got his extra points.
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah. You don't
lucky
forget
bastard,
that.
as
So,
it turns out.
the day you add for a leap year is actually February the 24th. In which year did World War II begin?
No more bets, please.
Oh, yes.
1939.
Well, now there, well done.
Coming up on the rails.
Yes, absolutely. Overuse of the whip.
I just want to make sure it's working.
Yes, he's still winning. Yeah.
39.
He just said that.
I know.
It doesn't work
I was
twice.
just waiting
It's a
to
nice
hear
thought.
why it wasn't.
Well, that's a very Anglo-Franco point of view. Certainly it's when the British and the French joined the war, But before then, the Germans had been at war with other countries, and the Chinese had been at war with the Japanese. That was a very global sort of event. It spread out, and of course there were alliances and other such things. So you could argue it was 37. You could argue it was 35. You could say the Spanish Civil War, with all the international brigades that went in, that was the beginning of the world conflict.
But could it, strictly speaking, be the World War at that point? I mean, how many countries
Some
does
of
it
the
take?
World War.
I don't know.
Them,
It certainly is nothing like the entire globe.
Austria-Hungary is probably not enough.
No.
My father was an MEP, along with Otto von Habsburg, who, had things been different, would have had much more power. My father was watching the football in the common room at the Parliament, and Otto came in and said, "Who's playing?" And my father said, "Austria-Hungary." And he said, "Oh, against whom?"
So Britain joined World War II in 1939, yes, but it had been going on since at least 1937, and arguably since 1935. Could you beat a T-Rex at arm wrestling?
Yes, easily.
Yes, easily.
I finally got one.
Well done. Oh, even the word easily you got.
Yeah. Either that's the fastest typist in the world, or I was back on. I get double points for both.
That's really very good indeed. No, it may be that in relation to its body, the T-Rex's arms look rather spindly and puny. In fact, they're enormous and powerful, and they are able to lift equivalent to about 400 pounds, whereas the average human being would be about 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Plus, I did once lose an arm wrestle to Boris Johnson.
Did you?
Yeah, lost. Can you believe that? I thought he was all blubber. He's a wholesome man.
He's Turkish. He's got
He's
Turkish blood in him.
hugely
Low centre
strong.
of gravity.
We were in a Turkish bath at the time.
So, you were in a Turkish
I
bath.
wasn't in a Turkish bath. I was just arm wrestling him over who'd vomited most in an F-15 fighter jet. How manly is that?
Yes, I went in a Jaguar, and Hugh Laurie went in one as well. And Hugh is the butchest man you've ever met. He's just extraordinarily athletic, natural athlete. And we each got on this aeroplane. He looked at me, the squadron leader, as he belted me up, and said, yeah. Oh, OK. And I thought, of course, I'll be the one who throws up. And Hugh would be flying side. Hugh would look at me and go, ha, ha, ha. Hugh threw up for the entire journey. And I was completely fine. But the bad bit was when we landed, and I said to the squadron leader, I said, when you were just belting me up, and you looked at me and you went, yeah, OK. What was that about? He said, oh, I didn't want to worry you. He just said that if we had to, you know, use the ejection seat, your kneecaps would have stayed behind. Because my legs were just
Exactly
you would have the same height.
Exactly the same. In a Hawker Hunter, I would have shot out, and the lower half of my legs would have remained in plane.
Because it's a bomb underneath you. It's just, not a chance. Yeah. There you go. Anyway.
God, I was sick. I was supposed to be dropping a laser-guided bomb, and I had these three screens, and you have to...
This was a
and
dream.
I kept vomiting all over the screens. And so and I missed not just the target, but all of North Carolina with my bomb. I have no idea where it landed to this day. I was sick a lot into their machinery.
Well, despite having mimsy arms, tyrannosaurs were very strong indeed. What is the length of an Olympic swimming pool?
No more race, please. 50 metres.
100 metres.
Whoa, 50 metres, no. It is counted as 50 metres, but it isn't 50 metres.
50 metres.
According to the Fédération Internationale Natation, de Natation of Swimming.
Those bastards.
The Olympic swimming pools are oversized by a centimetre at each end. Why?
So you don't bash your ankles when you do that spin-turn
No,
thing?
it's not that. What do you need in order to have an Olympic race?
A winning tape.
Well, you need a lap counter, and you need something that makes sure that the guy has completed the lap, or the girl has completed the sensor pad. At each lane, you need one of those, which is a centimetre at each end. What about peeing in the pool? Is that considered a bad thing by Olympic swimmers?
Oh, it is bad. It's very bad, isn't it?
Pooing's right out, but...
I think it doesn't mean with the chlorine, it mixes with the chlorine.
Well, Olympic swimmers are perfectly happy to do it, and perfectly happy to admit that they do it. And Michael Phelps, of course, the greatest Olympian of all time in terms of his medal haul, the old bucket hands himself.
Oh, Pissy Phelps.
He says, yeah. He says, everybody pees in the pool. It's kind of a normal thing to do for swimmers. When you're in the water for 2 hours, we don't really get out to pee. Chlorine kills it.
2 hours?
2-hour races he's been in.
No, but they do actually practice. Well, the fact is, an Olympic-sized swimming pool is actually 2 centimetres longer than you think.
And full of piss.
Entirely full of urine. How old do you have to be to go on a Club 18 to... Oh, that must mean that we've come to the end of the show. Let's look at the scores and see who's tonight's lucky loser. Well. The clear, outright, and extraordinary winner with an amazing -23 is Danny Baker. In second place, with a very, very impressive -5, Jeremy Clarkson. The wrong side of the ledger with +3, Sandy Toksvig. But the joker in a pack of 52 cards. Yes, +52 for Alan Davis. The blue whale was a very bad call. That's all from Sandy, Danny, Jeremy, Alan and me, and I leave you with the last word from actor Edmund Gwenn. When asked if dying was tough, he said, yes, it's tough, but not as tough as doing comedy. Good night.
New to BBC Two, Bag Chats with Jack Whitehall and his dad, with guests Michael Ball and David Williams tomorrow at 10. And next tonight, Snow Rider Vic